Hey guys, what's up? Phil here. And today we have balance changes and some gameplay. Um, but this is the third time we've gotten balance changes in a month or like in a row. So I think Clash Royale is going to start doing monthly balance changes, which I think is good for the game. And they haven't confirmed that though. They never said they were going to start doing it. They just have been doing it. So there's no like guarantee that's the move from here on out, but we'll see. Um, there's some buffs and some nerfs. We're gonna start off with the buffs. The first one is Electro Wizard, which is doing 5% more damage. Which at first you might be thinking, that doesn't sound like a lot, but Electro Wizard likes to hold things still with his stun ability, and him doing a little bit more damage is kind of good because sometimes it feels like he is hitting kind of weak. So I think this is a good change. Um, Overall, I think against like win conditions and certain units, what this will change the most is it'll keep it from getting that extra hit because it'll kill it like one hit faster in certain situations. Ewiz pairs really good with like P.E.K.K.A, which got nerfed really badly. So this might actually help P.E.K.K.A do good in the meta without buffing P.E.K.K.A because P.E.K.K.A has been doing kind of bad now after that range nerf it got last season. The next change was the evolved giant snowball. It's getting a slowdown duration of 33%. And so basically what that means is now instead of it being 3 seconds of slowing stuff down, it does 4 seconds, which kind of is a big deal because, you know, every single second matters in a match, and a whole extra second of stuff being slowed down seems like a lot. As a snowball user myself, not in this clip, sadly. I was using log. What a weirdo I am. I noticed that when I was using snowball, like the evolved version of it, like the slowdown, it just didn't seem like enough. So I think this is like the perfect buff for snowball because, you would use it against like a hog rider or a ram rider, and it would pull it backwards and slow it down. But then, if you were like low on elixir or if you didn't have the best response in hand, the hog would still get a hit anyways, and uh, or the ram rider or the balloon or whatever you're using it on. And so it just kind of felt like instead of snowball changing the game and helping you like win a match, it kind of just felt like you were delaying the inevitable and you were just going to lose your tower anyways. And you're just like, no, please don't take my tower. And then you throw the snowball down and then, you lose your tower and you're like, bummer. Huh. Hmm. The next buff is the Royal Chef. I think if you guys remember last season, they made him cook slower, his pancakes, that is, the things he used to level up troops. And they made his hit speed lower. And all around, they just killed the card. Like, Royal Chef is the worst tower troop in the game right now. And so, what they did is his minimum cook frequency, geez, uh, they made it go from one pancake every 24 seconds to one pancake every 21 seconds. So he makes pancakes 3 seconds faster when he's not being attacked. When he's actively shooting, the chef does he cooks slower, and so they actually buffed his max cook frequency, which is his slowest cooking speed. So when he's shooting his spatulas, that's what they changed there. And so the max cook frequency went from 40 seconds to 35 seconds. So now he uh, he cooks he cooks pancakes 5 seconds faster while attacking, which is pretty good because if there's one thing I noticed about the chef is that he seems to get way less value on defense. So making more pancakes makes up for his lack of defense on offense. And I did the math. His minimum cook frequency means he makes 7 pancakes in a match, like a 3 minute match. And afterwards, he will now make 8 pancakes in a match, which should help you on, like, in theory, like a whole extra level added to one of your troops seemed like a big deal. And that's the minimum cook frequency. Obviously, your tower isn't being attacked at all in the game, so sometimes he's going to be cooking slower. So you're getting around, like, from you used to get like 6 to 7 pancakes, now you're getting 7 to 8 pancakes in a match, maybe more if you go all the way into overtime to the end of it. And that can really be game changing because an extra level added to your cards is a pretty big deal. But let's go on to the next change. All right, moving on to the nerfs, we actually have some crazy nerfs to spells. Spells don't usually get balance changes because spells get used a lot simply for being spells. Like, they're super valuable. Everyone has a spell in their deck, almost everyone at least. And you really can't play the game without spells. But we actually got, I think, 3 spell changes in the nerfs, and we also had the snowball buff. So that's 4 spells in this set of balance changes. The first one being arrows. Arrows are getting a nerf. Now, unlike what a lot of people thought, arrows are not getting a radius nerf. They're getting a tower damage nerf by 58%. That's right, 58. That's such a huge number. The exact numbers at tournament standard, which is level 11, the when you play like challenges or the 2v2 casual mode, all your cards level 11. That is the tournament standard for those who don't know. Some people don't know that, and I've noticed that recently. And so I thought I'd just explain that real quick. But before, arrows did 93 damage at level 11, and now they're only going to do 39. That's 50 damage less, roughly. Like 50, 53, I think. 54. That's a lot less. And so I think this nerf is overkill, honestly. Obviously, you want to nerf arrows in a way that makes it where they win less games. And sometimes, the chip damage you get on the tower is quite a lot. But I think a 58% nerf is a lot. And arrows would be, hurting as a card if they did that change. The next nerf is log. I know. Now, don't worry if you're a log user. A lot of people really like log, and they don't like the idea of it getting nerfed because it counters log bait. And arrows and log getting nerfed when bait is already strong in the meta sounds scary because what are you going to use to counter all the log bait spam? But anyways, log bait is also getting a tower damage nerf by 50%. And so now instead of doing 58 damage at tournament standard, it's going to do 29. Only 29 damage per log. That means if you're cycling logs on the tower to take it, you would need 4 logs for a 100 HP tower compared to 2 logs. And so this basically means spell cycling for like cycle decks, and for beatdown decks, since beatdown usually use arrows, it's like way less like viable because your spells do barely any damage. You're gonna have to actually break through with your troops instead of like just using your spells at the end of the match. Hey, okay, so the next nerf is a cannon nerf. They're gonna nerf the damage by 6%. This nerf, I think is good because cannon has been the best building in the game since Tesla got nerfed. And I mean, the only other building I usually see in like ladder is Goblin Cage and Tombstone. I see Tombstone sometimes, but Tombstone is kind of different than a building because it spawns the skeletons. It's not the same as like a cannon or a Tesla or a bomb tower or Inferno tower. But cannon has definitely been like the strongest um strongest building for like, I don't know, a couple months. And the evolved version of the cannon is arguably the best cycle evo right now. Like, I think almost every cycle deck uses it. You have Pigs EQ with the Archer Queen. They use Evo Cannon. You have I think Bait has been no, Bait hasn't been using the cannon. Hog Rider. You see it in Drill Bomber with NATO and Goblinstein. But all around, and E-Giant also uses the Evo Cannon, and it's just been super OP because of the blast effect. So I guess they decided to do the same thing that they did with the Dark Goblin, which was also super good. They decided to nerf the base form of the card to tone down the evolution by making it do less damage. And now Evo Dark Goblin isn't even that strong of a card. So it's honestly working. Like so I think this cannon nerf will be really good. And for people who don't like cycle decks or decks that use cannon. Like I think I've seen cannon in graveyard too now that I think about it. This is like a good nerf for you guys because sometimes cannon is really hard to break through. I use Rascal's bait and sometimes I'll watch a cannon and an ice spirit take out an 8 elixir push and I'm like, "Hey, hold on. That should not be possible." So, maybe I'm a little biased, but I think the cannon nerf is good. Hopefully this doesn't kill cycle though, because log and cannon both getting nerfed is kind of a big deal. The next change we have is rage. So they don't specify what they mean here, but they say the effect duration is going to be nerfed by 50%. So it's going to go from 2 seconds to 1 second. Now rage duration is 5.5 seconds. So what I think this is about is when a troop exits the rage, it stays raged for a little bit, and it goes from, I need to change this, I'm sorry. It goes from being 2 seconds to 1, and so the troop that exits the rage won't stay as raged for as long. And this specifically targets Evo Lumberjack. Evo Lumberjack. Because if you noticed when you're playing against Evil Lumberjack, maybe he dies and he's not near your tower, and then he runs out the rage because you don't have any troops down, and he gets 2 hits on your tower, and you're like, hey, hold on, that's kind of unfair. The whole point of the ghost on the Evil Lumberjack is that he stays alive in the rage spell. So why is he allowed to just run out of it and hit stuff? Now, on one hand, I think this is a good change because Evil Lumberjack was kind of a ridiculous card and it needed to be toned down a little bit. But this nerf also affects normal rage spell and normal Lumberjack. And so decks like Lumberloon Freeze, P.E.K.K.A. Ramrider, Goblin Giant Sparky, they're all gonna be affected by this because of Evo Lumberjack, which seems a little unfair because none of those decks per se were super strong because of the rage, and it just kind of seems like rage and Lumberjack are getting nerfed because of the evolved Lumberjack being super ridiculous. And I think they should have just made it like in the code, like, hey, when Evil Lumberjack leaves the circle after 1 second, he dies. They could have done that instead of nerfing the spell. So I don't really like this change. At the very least, I think they could do, instead of 2 seconds, they could do 2 seconds to 1 second. They could do 1.5 seconds, so a 25% nerf instead of a 50%. But all around, these are work in progress balance changes, so they're not final. So they might actually change these. Moving on, we have a bug fix and a rework. We have a princess bug fix where her deploy time is 20% slower. So instead of taking 1 second to drop, she takes 1.2 seconds, which I think will make reacting to Princess the Bridge easier to a degree. And so it's hard to say. It's hard to say if that'll be the case, but if it is, it'll make those rocket cycle decks that only have Princess as their way to get damage on the tower and then just a bunch of defensive cards. It'll make those cards way less useful, or it'll make those decks way less playable because now you're just simply not going to be able to spam your Princess the Bridge and get guaranteed damage and then just play defense and rocket a bunch. Those decks are super annoying, but as a Princess user, I'm kind of afraid. Now, they did buff Princess in another aspect. They made her first hit time a little bit faster. So instead of 0.5 seconds, it's 0.3 seconds. And they're calling this a bug fix because I'm pretty sure Princess will miss her shot sometimes. And which is kind of annoying. Like if you play princess on bats and she misses three of the bats, you're like, okay, what was the point of the princess? You barely even hit any of the bats. And so I think the first hit time will be good for defense, but the deploy time will make her worse for spamming her at the bridge. And lastly, we do have a void rework. If you guys remember the void spell, it was the most used spell for a while, or close to most used spell. Now it's the least used spell, and that's because they nerfed it into the ground a long time ago, and then just forgot about it. No one talked about void anymore. It was like, it's a cool thing, it's gone. And the same thing happened for a lot of the new cards they added. I think that's a problem Supercell has. They over nerf new cards, and then we just we just don't ever get to see them again. Like Goblin Machine, Goblin Demolisher, Goblin Curse, Void Spell. Suspicious Bush was never really that good, so I don't think that one counts. Little Prince is doing pretty bad right now. He was a new card added a year ago. Over a year ago, honestly. But, anyways, they're making the hit speed of the Void 30% faster. So now instead of doing um, a hit every 1.3 seconds, it hits every 1 second. So the void spell will last a total of 3 seconds. It still does 3 strikes. It's just going to make responding to it and blocking the void spell a little bit harder if you're down on elixir or you're not prepared. And so that'll make getting those high beam damages that the void does more likely, and it'll mean it does in general more damage against troops that you play it on if your opponent's not ready. Void is a what people call a high skill spell because of because you have to use it at certain times or it's not going to get the value you want it to get. I think this change overall is good, but it's not the best because void spell very commonly was known as a high damage thing that didn't do good against swarms, and they nerfed the damage it does to max units, and then they buffed the damage it does to swarms. So they kind of made it like arrows, but worse. And then they kind of made it like what card? Kind of like fireball, but worse. Kind of like lightning, because it doesn't do that good against single units now because they live, and it doesn't do that good against swarms because it does like a smaller radius than arrows. It doesn't stun them. It doesn't knock them back like snowball or zap. And so all around, I think the thing they should change about void is they should make it do a little more damage on the single beam and a little less damage to swarms, because the whole concept of the card was it was good against good against single units, bad against swarms, and they kind of ruined that concept. So I'm hoping we can see a change like that. Maybe eventually one day, but it's hard to say. But yeah, that's all the changes in the balance change. It's actually quite a few. I will show the all the balance changes on the screen here at the end. So yeah, here are the balance changes that I was just talking about. There's a total of 9 now that I can count them all. I probably could have done that before I started recording, but just to go over them one last time. You got arrows, you got log, you got cannon, rage, Ewis, snowball, the chef tower, princess, and void spell. So yeah, that's all the changes. The only thing else I want to address is that I've been playing 2v2s with my friend Chaos. You saw one of the matches just now. Currently, I think, yeah, I'm 6,000 in the world. We were 4,500 a couple days ago, but we haven't played in the past 2 days. And I'll definitely try recording some matches and post them because we're both using Rascal's Bait. We're both having a good time. It's pretty fun. We want to finish top 2K in the season. This was our first time pushing up. We went from 1,500 to 2,400. So a 900 trophy push is a pretty big push for your first day on. I think that's 30 games. You have to, well, you get a little more for winning against higher league people. So it's like 30, 27 games, and we lost 4 games. So we won like 34, 35 games to get that far in a single day. It's like actually so enjoyable to play with someone who plays the same type of deck as you. So I'll definitely try to post some 2v2 games, have some fun with that. And maybe I'll even play some Rascal decks on the Path of Legends. And I'll try to get those out before the end of the season and before the balance changes come out, because I don't know how those will affect the meta yet. Anyways, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys later. Like, subscribe, all that stuff. Bye bye.